What if I told you the fate of the entire world, the spiritual war you're fighting, and the destiny you're meant to fulfill all hinge on one simple, revolutionary act, a radical act of defiance against a world that demands you never stop? I'm talking about simply staying inside for a day. Chosen ones, have you ever felt that undeniable pull, that cosmic whisper in your soul telling you to just unplug, to retreat from the noise, to go inward, the feeling where your spiritual batteries are so low that even a caffeinated squirrel seems more energized than you are? You're out there fighting the good fight, spreading light, and being the incredible spiritual warrior you were born to be. But the world, in its infinite wisdom, keeps screaming, more, do more, be more, go, go, go. I want to tell you a story about a spiritual warrior named Elara. Elara was a legend in her community. She was always the first to show up, the one who spoke truth to power, the light bringer who stood firm in the face of darkness. Her calendar was packed with divine appointments, volunteering, mentoring, advocating for justice, and spiritually battling the forces of doubt and fear. She was an unstoppable force, or so she thought. Slowly, the endless giving, the constant exposure to the world's chaos, and the lack of quiet time began to take their toll. Her prayers felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling. Her intuition became a faint whisper she could barely hear, and the joy she once felt was replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. She thought she was failing. She thought her spiritual armor was cracking. One day, completely drained, she heard a voice, a gentle, persistent nudge from the divine. It wasn't a booming command, it was a simple instruction. Elara, stay inside, just for a day. Her first thought was, but the world needs me. I can't retreat now. She resisted, but the exhaustion won. She finally surrendered and closed her door, turning off her phone and tuning out the world. In that sacred stillness, something incredible happened. The divine wasn't outside waiting for her, it was inside, waiting to be rediscovered. She wasn't failing, she was being called to a new level of power. Here's the bold statement I want you to remember, spirit warriors. Staying inside isn't an act of cowardice. It's an act of divine strategy. It's not about hiding from your purpose, it's about recharging so you can fulfill it. The future you're fighting for, the one that depends on your strength, your clarity, and your unwavering light, cannot be won on an empty tank. This is what the great spiritual teacher Ram Dass meant when he said, the quieter you become, the more you're able to hear. The universe has a secret for you, and it's hidden right behind your front door. So, chosen ones, get comfortable. I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video because I'm about to break down the 7 non-negotiable reasons why your one day of sacred retreat is the most powerful weapon in your spiritual arsenal. This isn't just about self-care, it's about destiny. Let's get into it. Point 1, the great spiritual detox. Spirit warrior, think of the outside world like a giant, never-ending spiritual buffet, but not the good kind. It's not soul food, it's a toxic mix of energetic junk. You've got breaking news that feels more like breaking you, social media dripping with highlight reels designed to make you feel like you're not doing enough. A co-worker who speaks fluent sarcasm and low vibrational small talk, and the existential dread that hits you in traffic when you realize the world runs on chaos. All of that is not just noise, it's energetic clutter. And when you're exposed to it every day, it starts to build up. Just like your body gets bloated from processed food, your spirit gets bloated from processed energy. Here's what most people don't realize. Every environment has a vibration. Hospitals, clubs, offices, malls. They each carry an energetic frequency based on the thoughts, emotions, and actions that happen there. When you move through the world unconsciously, you're not just navigating places, you're absorbing atmospheres. That's why you feel exhausted after a trip to the mall or irritable after sitting in a waiting room. You picked up on the unspoken energy and it stuck to your aura like spiritual dust. Now enter the idea of spiritual hygiene. Just like you wouldn't go a week without showering, hopefully, your soul also needs a deep cleanse. That's why staying in for a day, or even a few hours, can be medicine. You're not being antisocial, you're being soul-conscious. You're creating a sacred space where your energy doesn't have to go into defense mode. Think of it like a spiritual colon cleanse. You're flushing out the news feeds, the noise, the tension, and the invisible psychic junk that attaches to you when you're just trying to buy almond milk. Science even backs this up. Neuroscience tells us that the human brain is hardwired to be influenced by its environment. Through a mechanism called mirror neurons, we subconsciously pick up and mimic the emotions of those around us. If someone is anxious, your nervous system mirrors that without you even realizing. That means every office gossip session or energy vampire encounter is literally programming your system to operate in survival mode. Staying in is not just about rest, it's about reprogramming. And let's talk frequency. In quantum physics, everything is energy. Your thoughts emit a frequency, your words have a vibration. When you take time to retreat into silence, solitude, or sacred space, you allow your frequency to recalibrate. You unplug from the matrix of manufactured fear and reconnect to source. Your soul gets a reset, like turning off a glitching phone and watching it reboot with peace. But here's the beautiful twist. When you start doing this regularly, people around you notice. You walk differently, you speak with more intention. You no longer participate in conversations that drain you. You stop laughing at jokes that are secretly wounds in disguise. And yes, you might get labeled as quiet, different, or even weird. That's okay. You're not weird, you're clean. And clean energy feels radical in a world addicted to chaos. So don't feel guilty for canceling plans, muting group chats, or choosing incense over influencers. You're not hiding, you're healing. You're not avoiding life, you're choosing to live it on your terms. This is not just self-care, this is warrior care. It's how you stay sharp, how you hear your intuition clearly, how you remain unshaken while everyone else is spiraling. Staying in isn't laziness, it's strategy. It's how spirit warriors recharge their light before stepping back into a world that desperately needs their clarity. So go ahead, light that candle, play those healing frequencies, and sip that herbal tea like it's liquid gold. Because when you protect your energy, you protect your purpose. And that, spirit warrior, is the most powerful thing you can do. Stay in, stay sharp, stay sacred. Point 2, reconnecting with your divine GPS. You, spirit warrior, have a built-in navigation system more accurate than any GPS, more ancient than any map, and more divine than any worldly instruction. It's that whisper in your soul that nudges you left when everyone else is going right, that sacred pull that leads you away from chaos and into peace. But here's the catch. This divine compass doesn't scream, it doesn't barge in, it whispers. And in today's hyper-digital, overstimulated, algorithm-driven world, we've become masters at ignoring it. We're bombarded with so much external noise, from news alerts to TikTok trends to everyone and their dog's opinion, that we end up missing the quiet truth that lives within us. That inner voice, your higher self, gets drowned out by the shouting of the world. But when you step away, when you turn off the screen, close the door, and sit in the stillness, something powerful happens. Science even backs this up. Neuroscientists have found that periods of silence activate the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for introspection and self-awareness. This is not woo-woo, this is your brain, your spirit, and your biology craving alignment. And that alignment begins in silence. Think of your mind like a radio. If you're tuned into static all day, you won't hear the symphony trying to play on the other channel. Silence retunes you. It clears the spiritual frequency, that still, small voice the prophet spoke of. It's not metaphorical, it's your divine broadcast, and silence is how you hear it. When you choose to be still, even just for one day, you aren't being lazy or antisocial. You are spiritually recalibrating. It's like resetting the compass that guides your purpose. You start remembering what you truly want, not what the world told you to chase. You start recognizing synchronicities again, those divine nudges disguised as coincidences. You start receiving what some call downloads, those flashes of insight that feel like they came from somewhere higher. That's not your imagination, that's spirit speaking. And here's where it gets wild. When you return to the world after reconnecting with your inner voice, you walk different. You speak with clarity. You don't flinch when others try to confuse you because you've already been in the presence of truth. You've remembered who you are, so take the day, unplug, go silent, recalibrate. Because when you reconnect with your internal GPS, you stop getting lost in their chaos. You start walking in divine clarity, and that, spirit warrior, is how you rise. Point 3, the womb of creation. Let's take a deeper dive into the sacred art of spiritual retreat and stillness, a journey that is as ancient as the stars and as relevant as the next breath you take. This moment of withdrawal you're in, it isn't passive, It isn't aimless, it is powerful. In fact, this pause, this sacred stillness, is not a void but a vortex, a concentrated center of divine activity. And this isn't just spiritual rhetoric. Both metaphysical traditions and modern psychological science agree. When the soul gets quiet, the universe gets loud. Let's start with the wisdom of ancient cultures. Indigenous shamans, mystic sages, desert prophets, and monastic traditions across continents all point to the same truth. Transformation begins in solitude. The sacred mountaintops, caves, forests, and deserts were not chosen by accident. These were deliberate sanctuaries for inner rebirth. Why? Because silence is the soul's amplifier. It's where the inner chatter quiets enough for you to hear what God has been trying to say all along. In Native American vision quests, young warriors would spend days alone in nature, fasting, praying, and opening themselves to divine visions. Likewise, in Christian tradition, Jesus withdrew for 40 days into the wilderness, not to escape, but to align with heaven before his public mission. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment begins in stillness under the Bodhi tree. In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad received his first revelation in the quiet of a cave. There's a pattern here. Stillness precedes spiritual activation, and while ancient wisdom illuminates the spiritual necessity of retreat, neuroscience now backs it with science. Research has identified a specific brain state known as the default mode network, DMN. This network becomes active when we're at rest, not focused on the outside world, but inwardly engaged, daydreaming, reflecting, imagining. Contrary to what we were taught, this rest mode isn't wasted time. It's where your brain connects the dots, refines your sense of self, and imagines possible futures. In this state, creativity flourishes, memory is organized, vision is born. So, when you're journaling, walking quietly in nature, meditating, or simply staring at the ceiling, you're not disengaged. You're engaged in the most profound construction project imaginable, building your inner world. Spiritually, what you are doing is not only valid, it's vital. Picture a seed underground, it appears to be dormant. But what's happening beneath the soil? Roots are forming. The infrastructure is being laid for what will eventually break through the surface and reach toward the heavens. That's you. You're in divine incubation. Heaven is not judging your stillness as laziness. It's honoring it as obedience. The Spirit often moves most when we move the least. The whispers that shape destinies are usually spoken in moments too quiet for the world to hear. So if you're feeling distant from others, unproductive by society's standards, or even invisible, rejoice. You're exactly where transformation thrives. Even biology supports this. During sleep, the brain performs glymphatic cleaning, flushing out toxins and restoring clarity. In the same way, your spiritual stillness flushes emotional and energetic toxins from your soul. This sacred pause detoxes your timeline from distractions, disillusionments, and detours. It resets your spiritual compass. This is not a breakdown. This is a recalibration. You're being rewired for a greater revelation. And don't be fooled by the world's obsession with hustle. Culture might worship busyness, but heaven reveres alignment. You could grind endlessly in a direction God never assigned, only to end up burned out and empty. But one download from the Spirit, received in sacred stillness, can accomplish more than years of striving. That's not just theology, that's spiritual physics. God isn't in the earthquake, the wind, or the fire. He's in the still, small voice. And to hear that voice, you must be still enough to notice it. So honor your stillness, protect your silence. This is not the end, it's the womb. You are not falling behind, you're falling in sync. You are not invisible, you are cloaked in divine mystery. And every moment you spend in quiet communion, the heavens lean in. Angels take notes. The Spirit hovers. This is sacred territory. In fact, you're not alone in your retreat. The spiritual realm is abuzz with activity around you. Ancestors who endured in silence are cheering you on. Angelic guides are preparing the path ahead, and the breath of the Holy Spirit is closer than your skin, reminding you that surrender is not weakness, it's the beginning of co-creation. What's forming now in this spiritual vortex is not just a new season, but a new self. So lean in, spirit warrior. Let the silence teach you. Let the rest restore you. Let the invisible become your most trusted guide. Because this is not the death of movement, it is the resurrection of meaning. And when you emerge from this sacred stillness, you will carry not just your own voice, but the echo of the divine. You're not hiding, you're healing. You're not lost, you're being led. And from this holy retreat, miracles will rise. Not because you forced them, but because you finally flowed with them. This is your vortex, and it's preparing you for everything you were born to become. Point 4, unmasking the inner critic. In a world that moves at lightning speed, silence has become a lost language. We are constantly bombarded with curated perfection, loud opinions, and subtle reminders that we are somehow not enough. From the moment we wake up, we're plugged into a performance loop. Likes, metrics, deadlines, comparisons. The noise is constant, and the pressure to be flawless is like an invisible hand gripping our every decision. But here's the wild truth. Perfection is the biggest illusion ever sold. It keeps us chasing an image while running from our essence. And today, Spirit Warrior, you get to step off that stage. When you're alone in your sacred space, no audience, no filters, no one to impress, you finally meet the one person you've spent years ignoring, your true self, that still small voice that gets drowned out by social expectations. It's your spirit calling you back. Neuroscience has shown that when we sit in intentional solitude, the brain shifts into what's known as the default mode network, the part responsible for self-reflection, daydreaming, and internal storytelling. It's here that we begin to rewrite the narrative we've been given, the one that says we're too much or not enough, the one that says success looks a certain way or love must come with sacrifice. Stillness doesn't just relax the body, it realigns the soul. You see, when you sit quietly with your doubts and your fears, something divine happens. They lose their power. Anxiety thrives on avoidance, on distraction. But when you look your insecurities in the eye, when you say, I see you, but you're not the whole of me, you begin to take your power back. This is not about silencing your pain. It's about making peace with it. It's not about pretending your inner critic isn't real. It's about learning how to dialogue with it, not obey it. Spiritual traditions from Buddhism to Christianity all agree on one thing. Solitude is sacred. Jesus retreated to the wilderness. The Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree. And you? Today you sit in your own temple, whether it's a quiet room, a sunlit porch, or simply 5 minutes in your car, and you reclaim your spirit. This isn't weakness, this is war. An inner war that spirit warriors fight not with swords, but with stillness. Because when the world screams, do more, and you choose to simply be, you're already disrupting the lie. There is no healing in pretending. Healing begins when you get raw, when you acknowledge the scars, but also celebrate the skin that grew back tougher. Falling back in love with yourself doesn't mean you ignore your flaws. It means you stop defining yourself by them. It means you finally see the you underneath the labels, the trauma, and the performance. It means that even when the world gives you 1,000 reasons to feel inadequate, you give yourself one sacred reason to feel whole. You're still here, breathing, growing, becoming. So today, Spirit Warrior, let the world keep spinning. Let them chase perfection. Let them stay distracted. But you return to the fire inside. You don't need permission to rest. You don't need approval to reflect. You don't need validation to feel worthy. The divine didn't create you to impress the world. The divine created you to awaken it. And that awakening starts with your own. Sit with yourself. Listen deeply. Not to the noise, but to the truth beneath it. That quiet strength, that deep knowing, that's your power. And in the stillness of this sacred day, may you remember it, may you honor it, may you fall in love again with the wild, raw, beautiful masterpiece that is you. Because sometimes the loudest form of rebellion is silence. Point 5, charging your spiritual batteries. Your spiritual energy is like a phone battery, Spirit Warrior. You can't run on fumes forever. And I get it, life moves fast. You're out here pouring into others, leading by example and showing up for your family, your community, and your purpose. But let's be real, when was the last time you stopped to plug yourself in? Here's the truth. Your soul wasn't built to function at 10%. You were wired for 100% divine alignment, that glow you carry, that peace people envy, that wisdom that pours from your spirit like a waterfall. It only flows like that when you're fully charged, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And if you're running on empty, no amount of coffee, motivation quotes, or fake smiles can fake fullness. You can't pour from a cracked, dry vessel. And trust me, this world doesn't need another burnt-out warrior. It needs a radiant one. This is your day of retreat. Not a luxury, a necessity, a spiritual non-negotiable. Just like you wouldn't drive a car across the country without filling the tank, you can't walk through spiritual warfare, divine assignments, and generational healing without spiritual fuel. That meditation you keep putting off is that scripture calling you back, that moment of silence your soul is begging for. It's not just self-care, it's divine strategy. Because the forces that drain you don't stop. The distractions won't pause, but you can and you must. Think about your phone. When it gets to 1%, that red bar starts flashing. It's screaming for a charger. You know if you don't plug it in, it's going to die, and yet we treat our spirit like it can keep going on zero. Spirit warriors, your intuition is the flashing red bar, that heaviness you feel, the short temper, the brain fog. Those aren't just bad days. Those are divine alerts. Your spiritual Bluetooth is disconnecting from the source, and when that happens, your clarity, discernment, and peace start glitching. You're not failing, you're low on power. Plug back in, get still, retreat into the presence of God like it's your only source, because it is. This isn't about religion, it's about restoration. Studies in neuroscience show that periods of deep rest and meditation activate the brain's default mode network, an area tied to memory, empathy, and creativity. That's right, your spiritual rest literally rewires your brain for resilience. You emerge stronger, clearer, and more creative, ready to move with divine precision, not human panic. Even Jesus withdrew to recharge. Even prophets retreated to mountains. You are no exception. If heaven trusts you with an assignment, you better trust that retreating is part of the mission. It's in the stillness that strategy downloads. It's in the silence that visions sharpen. Don't let this world rush you out of divine rhythm. You're not just grinding, you're aligning. And here's the thing. When you return, fully powered, the atmosphere shifts. Your energy becomes undeniable. People can feel your peace before you speak. Your presence silences chaos without a word. Why? Because you've been with God. You've been filled. You're not reacting. You're radiating. And in a world full of noise, spirit warriors who walk in stillness are the loudest of all. So take the retreat, light the candle, read the word, sit under the tree, go offline, fast, pray, rest, and do it without guilt. Your future, your calling, your legacy, they're all waiting on the version of you that's fully charged, not barely breathing. Stop treating your spirit like an afterthought. It's the power source of everything else. Remember, this isn't laziness, it's divine maintenance. The mission doesn't pause, it deepens. You are too anointed to move like you're average, so retreat like your soul depends on it, because it absolutely does. Now go recharge, spirit warrior. The battlefield awaits a fully charged you. Point 6, practicing presence, not perfection. You want to know something truly radical, spirit warrior? Stillness. That's right. Being still, being quiet, and being off-grid for just a single day has become one of the boldest acts of rebellion in a world that constantly demands your attention, performance, and output. We live in a culture obsessed with busyness, a culture where your worth is often measured by how full your calendar is or how many emails you answer before lunch. From the moment your eyes open in the morning, the machine of modern life kicks in. Emails, alerts, checklists, expectations, meetings, social media posts, likes, followers, and deliverables. Everything pulls at you to prove yourself, to hustle harder, to perform better. But when you make the conscious decision to step back, to stay home, to disconnect, to sit in silence, and simply you're not being passive, you're declaring something revolutionary. I am already enough. And in a society that thrives on scarcity, insecurity, and comparison, that quiet truth is nothing short of a holy defiance. This isn't just a poetic idea, it's supported by hard science. Neuroscience tells us that when we slow down and intentionally engage in stillness, our brains respond in profound ways. Specifically, the default mode network, DMN, a region of the brain associated with daydreaming, self-referential thinking, and rumination, goes quiet. This is the same network that fuels overthinking, worry, and ego-driven chatter. But when we practice mindfulness, meditate, or simply sit in intentional silence, that activity dims. Our mind stops racing through to-do lists and hypothetical scenarios and instead settles into the present. This isn't just stress relief, it's neurological transformation. Research from institutions like Harvard and UCLA has shown that regular mindfulness practice can actually rewire the brain, strengthening areas responsible for focus, compassion, and emotional regulation. In other words, stillness doesn't just make you feel better, it literally makes you stronger, wiser, and more capable. And here's the powerful truth. Ancient wisdom traditions knew this long before the MRI machine did. Stillness has always been the secret doorway to the sacred. The early Christian desert fathers withdrew into the wilderness not to escape responsibility, but to hear the voice of God without distraction. Buddhist monks have sat in mountain silence for centuries, not out of idleness, but because they knew silence is where the soul speaks loudest. Indigenous cultures around the world practice silent rituals, vision quests, and solitary reflection to access deeper truths. They understood what we are only beginning to remember, that stillness isn't a pause from life, it's where life reveals itself. When you stop doing, stop rushing, and stop pretending, something extraordinary happens. You start hearing. And what you hear isn't just ambient noise or your internal monologue. You hear spirit. You hear the deep knowing that exists beneath your fears and ambitions. You hear that inner compass that doesn't need a resume, a platform, or applause to know who you are. Stillness, then, is not weakness, it's a return to power. In stillness, you discover that the sun rises without your alarm, the tides shift without your calendar, and the earth spins without your hustle. You're reminded that life isn't something you have to force, it's something you align with. The more present you become, the more magnetic your energy becomes. And it's not magic, it's biology. When your nervous system is calm, your hormones balance, your immune system strengthens, and your thinking becomes clearer. You move from reactivity to response, from fear to faith. You begin to attract rather than chase. This isn't philosophy, it's quantum mechanics and spiritual law intertwined. Here's the wild paradox. When you do less, you begin to more. You stop outsourcing your identity to your achievements and instead root it in your essence. You become the kind of person who walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word because your peace speaks volumes. You don't need to prove your worth with noise because your silence carries weight. People notice that calm in you, not the kind of forced calm that comes from biting your tongue, but the kind that comes from knowing who you are and being unmoved by chaos. That's not laziness, that's leadership. But let's be real, the world doesn't want you still. The system profits from your exhaustion. It thrives on your anxiety, your scrolling, and your comparing. It sells you solutions to problems it created. It teaches you to believe that rest is earned and value is measured in output. But Spirit Warrior, when you unplug for a day and choose the sacred over the superficial, you begin to reclaim your life. You stop being a product and start being a presence. You remember what it means to be human again. To sit in sunlight, to breathe with intention, to hear the birds instead of the buzz. You step out of the illusion of constant doing and into the truth of divine being. So the next time someone raises an eyebrow at your silence, your slowness, or your solitude, let them. Smile gently, because you know something they've forgotten. You know that your soul didn't come here to sprint, it came here to awaken. Stillness is not stagnation, it's strategy, it's sacred, it's the fertile ground from which real transformation grows. Every quiet moment is a seed, every breath is a prayer, every pause is a doorway. And from that doorway you will rise, not with panic or pretense, but with presence. Rooted, aligned, awake. Let the world keep spinning on its hamster wheel. You, Spirit Warrior, will walk forward, anchored in peace, wrapped in purpose, and guided by something no one can take away. Your inner stillness. That is your rebellion. That is your strength. And in a world that doesn't yet understand the power of rest, you'll be the revolution wrapped in silence. Keep going, keep breathing, keep being. Your peace is your power. Point 7, the ripple effect. This is the divine truth, Spirit Warriors. Your inner work isn't just for you. It might feel like solitude. It might look like stillness. But beneath the surface, something sacred is happening. Something the world desperately needs. When you commit to your healing, your grounding, your clarity, you're stepping into sacred service. This isn't self-indulgence, it's self-alignment. And when you align with the divine frequency within you, that vibration doesn't stop at your skin. It flows out into your family, your friendships, your community, and even the stranger you pass on the street. See, we live in a world that rewards noise, distraction, and busyness. But those of us who dare to be still, to face our shadows, to tend to our wounds, to reconnect with our soul, are doing a type of alchemy most people don't even recognize. Science backs this up too. Neuroscience shows that the human brain emits coherent frequencies when in meditation, which can literally influence the energy of those around you. The HeartMath Institute has documented how heart-based coherence, achieved through practices like breathwork and meditation, can regulate not only your own nervous system, but also sync with the electromagnetic fields of those nearby. Translation? Your peace is contagious. Your calm isn't just calming you, it's calming the collective. So every time you choose rest over rage, reflection over reaction, and grace over gossip, you're creating a ripple, a frequency shift, a new possibility. You're breaking cycles that may have run for generations simply by choosing not to let your trauma lead the way. That's spiritual warfare at its highest level. That's why your daily inner rituals matter, even when nobody sees them, especially when nobody sees them. So don't let the world guilt you into thinking your quiet hours are wasted. Don't let people tell you that because you're not hustling, you're not helping. You are. You're stabilizing the grid. You're tuning the collective energy back to the divine frequency. You're modeling what power looks like when it's rooted in peace, not panic. And in times like these, that's not just healing, it's holy. So light your candle, sit in silence, connect to Source, and know this: by staying inside, you are changing the outside, from the inside out. Spirit warriors, that is your sacred mission. So there you have it, chosen ones. The 7 reasons why staying inside for a day is not a luxury, but a necessity for your destiny. This isn't about avoiding the world. It's about preparing to conquer it with a renewed spirit. Your retreat isn't a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate demonstration of strength. I want to encourage you to schedule this day for yourself. Trust the process. The world won't fall apart without you for one day. In fact, it will become a better place because of the person you become after it. You are a spirit warrior, and your greatest battlefield is often within. Go. Find your silence, find your power, and come back ready to shine brighter than ever before. Your destiny is waiting for you.